Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to Unregimented number 297. I'm Chris.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Rich.
You feel that chill in the air? Impeachment season is here.
Ooh. Well, I'm in Las Vegas. It's like 95. So,
Who do you got
here?
Who do you got on your fantasy impeachment team?
Oh, shit, I forgot to draft.
Oh, shit, you got an auto-drafted team. Well, you better work the waiver wire.
I heard Pelosi's a sleeper pick now. Before you didn't want to pick her up. Now you might want to see if she's on the waiver wire.
Yeah, it was apparently this whistleblower this whistleblower complaint pertaining to a few different things, but mostly centering around this call with the Ukrainian president that brought her over on impeachment. Well, I guess there was a lengthy meeting that the Democrats had with Pelosi to convince her to come over to the impeachment side.
Does this mean just consists of them yelling at her for like 3 hours? Come on!
Everyone's doing it. All the cool kids can't get pregnant the first time. Peer pressure, peer pressure.
If you take it in your ass, you're still a virgin. But so, okay, Aaron, educate. Like, I know, like, I've had a crazy week personally, so I'm like gleaning what I've been like picking up from like podcasts and random news alerts on my phone. What exactly is happening?
You're not automatically jumping all over every story that seems to implicate Trump in some sort of crime because they're a dime a dozen these days, right?
That is well, but like just this week I've been kind of disconnected, but that as well. Like I'm hearing, all right, another Trump impeachment story, whatever. Talk to you next week. That's kind of been where I've
been the same way, and I've been super busy this week too. But
the more things are filtering to me, I'm like going, they might actually have something here. What is happening?
Right. So we know that there was a whistleblower complaint that was made against the conduct of the president, saying that he was using the office for his own personal gain. Yeah, right. We have found out some information about the whistleblower, even though we shouldn't have. We generally protect the identity of these people for obvious reasons. First of all, the president is calling this whistleblower a criminal, saying that their actions are treasurous. Which
defense is good offense, right?
Well, yeah, but when we don't have the best track record so far with the extreme Trump fans turning to violence. So the last thing that we really need is, that's exactly what Trump wants, is to find out the identity of this person. The New York Times actually helped identify this person as a CIA agent that was working in the White House, and also identified that person as male.
Are they supposed to be helping?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they wanted to report that.
The only thing I can think of, just because it's 2019 and all bets are off, is they wanted to give some credibility to it. Like, no, for real, no, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Right, this isn't some junior staffer. This isn't some intern that overheard something.
This isn't that whole BuzzFeed debacle where it was like a guy who talked to a guy who had heard from a guy. They wanted to show their source was credible.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit of background on the situation between the president and Ukraine. It's been known that he has withheld. We've sold a certain number of these missiles. I forget, the javelins, right? And this is what the Ukraine, I don't know why I keep saying, or everybody keeps saying the Ukraine. Who decided that we have to put the in front of it? It's just a country and it's called Ukraine.
From what I read over the weekend, that's the old name when it was under when it was from the Soviet Union. Now it's just Ukraine.
Okay, so we've been selling these javelins to Ukraine to help defend their border. They use these as basically anti-tank weapons, and the president has held up the sale of javelin to Ukraine, and he's given many different reasons as to why. And then we had the whistleblower complaint about the phone call, right? And it wasn't just what was said in that phone call, it was the actions of members of the White House afterwards. Because calls are not recorded, but calls are listened to. Every call that the president has with the world leader, probably just about anyone, there are 3 people that are listening in and transcribing. And all of that is archived. There's an official transcript of each conversation that is made and is put into an archive. So the transcript of this conversation was put into the standard archive, but then immediately moved to a classified sector, I guess, of that of their hard drive, and deemed classified, even though there was nothing classified about the conversation. And it was it was partly the context of the conversation, and how the White House reacted afterward to immediately try and hide this conversation.
So it's like, oh shit, we shouldn't have said that. Let's shut this down.
Right.
All right.
So then it comes out that there's this whistleblower complaint, right? And the president, actually, to try and get ahead of having the complaint out there as the primary document that everyone's focusing on, chooses to release the transcript. A lot of people question why he would release this transcript, because it does seem to incriminate him. But I can understand why he'd rather people focus on what he said in the conversation rather than what the complaint was about, because the complaint is about other things involving the same issue, but other things than just the transcript. So
it sounds like he is hinging on lawyers are going to lawyer.
Who is Trump is?
Yes. Like, I didn't say it, so my lawyers can get me out of this. Like, is that
right?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it would be, I would think, a slam dunk case for any lawyer to prove the intent of this conversation. You know, if this conversation was between 2 mob bosses having an in-depth conversation over things that they would like to see happen, you know, they could easily illustrate the quid pro quo in that situation. I think they could with this as well. You know, I think it was Chris Christie who was saying, well, you know, this is just kind of how Trump talks, and it's not like he said, do me a favor, right? It's not like Trump said directly, do this for me.
That's why I think what you were saying, I think that's why he released the transcripts, because you're right. When it gets to the court of law, it's going to just be focused on, hey, he didn't say it.
But we have to remember, this is not him being tried. This is not going to be evidence for a criminal trial. This is evidence for impeachment. And the standard is fit for office or not whether he's guilty of a crime.
But, well, how does this fall under fit for office? I'm sure there's... I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm sure there's quid pro quos that go on all the time that we just don't hear about.
Yeah. And all of those would classify the participants as unfit for office. A lot of people get away with stuff. But
I guess my question is...
Here's the problem. Hold on. Before we go any further, let me tell you. Well, he did say, do me a favor.
Okay. Well, I guess my question just before that is, how does not committing a crime make you unfit for office? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
You're twisting my words, or you're not hearing me right. The standard isn't whether he did or did not commit a crime.
No, I get that.
The standard this is not going to be presented to a jury to decide whether a crime was committed. That's not the standard for this. It's not evidence in a crime.
What makes him unfit for office? Like, they think he committed I'm being honest. I'm not trying to start anything here.
Because he used the word favor.
He used the
Which
office
implies-
to help himself.
Okay.
When you use the word favor implies that there's going to be a returned favor somewhere down the line, which means he's not acting in the best interest of the country, which could be seen as treasonous. He's putting,
right.
you know what I'm
Got it.
saying?
Yes. I mean, mid-Vegas, had a couple drinks, maybe took the neurons a couple seconds to connect there. All right. Got it. Continue.
Right. I pulled up the transcript here, and so President Zelensky is in a long paragraph where he has his nose all the way up Trump's ass. Finishes off with, "I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue continue to cooperate for the next steps. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins for the United States for defense purposes." Trump then replies with, "I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it." So CrowdStrike, this is all in reference to an investigation that was done against Joe Biden's son. An investigation that was done by the FBI, by the Ukrainian government, by multiple news organizations. Everybody came up with nothing, but he's bringing this up because that is the favor. The favor that he wants is to reopen an investigation into Joe Biden's son.
Considering that's going to be one of your main political rivals in the next election, that sounds pretty fucking damning to me.
Right. So that's
definitely using your power to try to influence perhaps the election.
And, I think Trump releasing this transcript was probably the best play that he had at this point, because it was going to get out there one way or another. And at least you could have the lead version of this story be the one where you get to control it in a way. Because
control the narrative.
Trump thinks that he is clever enough in the way that he speaks that nobody can decipher exactly. Like, I didn't say that I wanted you to open the investigation. I just said that it's a travesty that this thing hasn't been opened. And we're not we're
dumb, but we're not that dumb.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Because that's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, dude, we're dumb, but one thing I've learned over the last 3 years is you're not as smart as you like to think you are.
Yeah. So he's doing exactly what everyone had been accusing him of doing with Russia. He's doing it all over again with Ukraine. And, the Republicans aren't turning on them or on him specifically, but they're not latching their boats to him either. They're not about to go down with the ship.
I know I heard Mitt Romney said if it gets to the Senate, he'd support it.
Yeah.
But isn't Romney, maybe it's just the political climate we're in, isn't he just turning into a Democrat wearing a red tie? I mean, he's from Massachusetts. That's a pretty liberal state.
Well, they call him Rhino within the party.
Yeah.
No, they said the same thing about McCain. Anyone who to the hardcore right wingers,
anyone who shows individual principle.
I just say
party line.
Is it just because it's a Republican with empathy?
Well, pretty much if you don't attack, if you're not constantly on the attack to the Democrats and going after them and going for the throat, then to a certain segment of, I wouldn't even say Republicans, I'm going to say Trump supporters, then yes, you're a Republican in name only. That's how they look at it.
But at this point, I mean, what is even the Republican name?
Yeah. The Republicans who don't even want to be Republicans anymore. Well, you can say that for each side, but yeah, it's not. If you've had an R by your name the last 3 years, not your best run.
Yep.
You've had better. You're longing for the days of the 80s, put it that way.
Yeah. And it looks like Giuliani's they're gonna try and make him the fall guy for all this shit too. He was their lead
America's
guy.
mayor.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, first of all, his occupation has been for how long now? But he's been Trump's lawyer.
Trump sycophant.
He doesn't work in the government. So why is he the guy when the president is talking to the president of the Ukraine? Why is it Giuliani that he says that is going to be his point man on this? Somebody who doesn't work for the government and may or may not have a security clearance. We don't know.
Well,
he actually refuses to answer that question.
this could be one of the areas where Trump is pretty smart and always have a fall guy. With all of
Yeah,
the
but do you
shit
think that's going to work? I
that
mean,
is swirled around him, Michael Cohen, who else? I mean, it seems Trump always has someone to pin it on.
well, he's going to try and pin it on Giuliani, but I think they're both going to go down. I don't think he's going to be able to convince anyone that, yes, there was a conspiracy, but it stopped at Giuliani, and Trump had no idea what it was at all, especially not when he's laying it out right out there in the conversation, right? The fact that he's even talking about he has Giuliani to send these messages, but this is what happens when you get away with the crime. You're more brazen the next time you attempt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so Romney says that he supports it. It's doubtful, but we'll see. But it's doubtful that they would get a majority still in the Senate.
I mean, I guess that's just what I keep coming back to.
But
As long as the Senate's Republican controlled, they're going to swat that shit down like Charles Barkley. Mm-hmm. Next.
But what happened with Nixon? Right,
crazy.
Nixon was impeached, but he wasn't removed. It was the idea that his party had to come to him and say, as long as you're the head of this party, we can't get anything done.
I can't see, maybe more now than 3 years ago, I can see him going, fuck it, I quit. It's a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to go back to being a rich guy. I could see that coming out of him now.
Yeah, honestly, I can believe it because sure, he's got a big ego, but his ego is so big that I don't think that this could even bruise it. Either way, what does a post-presidency Trump life look like? Probably no different whether he's impeached, whether he serves out his one term, or whether he actually serves 2 terms. His post-presidency life is going to be him milking that for all he can and probably starting another television show. And you know what I mean? Like, there's no disgraced version of Trump that goes and hides away.
He's probably hired as like a cheerleader for the Republican Party.
And to
stir up their rallies and shit for whoever their candidate is.
There's no way that this plays out, even if he is, quote unquote, shamed and leaves office under the threat of impeachment. There's no way that makes him any different as an ex-president than in any other scenario. He's not going to personally show, or I would dare say feel, any of that shame.
Oh, he'll just be that president everyone hated, but he'll still be a rich guy.
Well, I mean, do we want to move on to still in the realm of politics, but what could be 2 missteps by 2 liberal heroes? First one being, we weren't on last week, so we kind of missed it, but Beto's declaration that he's coming for your AKs and AR-15s, which, yeah, if I was him, I wouldn't accept any invitations to go driving around in a convertible in Texas with the top down anytime soon.
That's like, we talked about this pre-show chat. Like, dude, you're from Texas. Like, this is like just politics 101. Know your audience. Like,
well, I know that this is not a popular thing to say because a lot of people think that if you're left-leaning or a Democrat, that you automatically want to snatch everybody's guns. But I know quite a few people who are registered Democrats who fully support the Second Amendment. And he left a real sour taste in their mouth.
Yeah, I know a few people who I would classify, they probably classify themselves as liberal, who are just fine with guns. So it's not as much as the media would like us to believe, it's not really a right or left thing. Like it's more kind of a rural urban thing, like quite honestly. But I just don't, like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, like the first thing I thought was like the NRA is going to have a field day with this. Because you are playing right into the hands if they're going to take our guns. Because you said it.
Yeah, how many years have politicians been saying, we're not going to take your guns? I feel like there's just been a segment of society waiting for this moment, and they go, see? Boom, right there. There it is.
And it doesn't matter that was a specific type of gun, because that's really what it is. He's talking about taking away assault weapons, which I agree with. But, dude, like, we're in the age of no context anymore. All people on the opposite side of you heard was, you are going to take our guns.
I think the real question is, one, are the Second Amendment supporting Democrats, are they a single issue voter? Is this going to be an issue that's a make or break issue for them? I guess is what it comes down to. And I don't think so as much as on the Republican side. I know people that will vote strictly based on a candidate's stance on gun control. And the vast majority are Republicans. I don't know many people on the left that's a make or break issue. You know, they might say, I don't agree with him about it, but I like, his stance on these other issues. So that kind of outweighs this. And then, of course, there's people that go, well, how is he going to do it? Is you going to send the cops door to door? You know?
Yeah, which good luck with that.
You know, I mean, well, and especially you get out in some areas of the country, will the cops even go door to door? I mean,
some areas of the country that the cops might be outgunned. Honestly, it might be one dude, but he might have more fucking firepower than you.
Well, like I said, I know a few cops. I don't think any. I mean, it's a small, very tiny sample size. None of them are like in support of banning weapons and taking them away from law-abiding citizens. That's where it's like, okay, so is this going to be like, how do you enforce this? I mean, at that point, what are you going to do? You're going to freeze people's accounts until they turn it in? I mean, something along those lines. Hit them in the pocketbook.
One thought I've had about this is, I don't know if we've discussed this or not. It's not the access. We've had the same access for, like, how long have we all been alive? Like, in fact, you could argue now it's even less. Like, it's not about the access to the guns, in my opinion. Like, there's like a deeper thing going on here.
You're talking about like a fetishization of the weapons? Are you talking about like extreme gun culture?
Something. There is something else in society that's going on. We have had the same access or more our whole entire lives to these kind of weapons. Like, there's something going on sociologically, I think. There's a deeper thing here.
I would say that's a possibility, but I don't know. I find it harder and harder to get engaged in these types of conversations about weapons because these conversations often start from a false premise that it is an epidemic of gun violence in this country, and it's just not. It's been a string of really eye-catching headlines and really sad and fucked up stories, but it's not an epidemic.
I agree with you there.
Nowhere near classifying as an epidemic. And so to look at any kind of knee-jerk reaction to it is a bad way to handle it. If there is something going on culturally with how we think about or how some people fetishize the ownership of these weapons, that's a long-term problem that we should be addressing, certainly. But the idea that starts with, making certain weapons illegal and then going after the people who own them, that's a horrible way to do it. As a matter of fact, you'll probably just be pushing more people to the extreme side.
Well, I kind of look at like assault weapons, like banning race cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody has them, but they exist and accidents happen.
Look at just the reaction to things that don't matter, like plastic straws. The liberals said, we all have to stop being monsters and using plastic straws so they're getting stuck up all the turtles' noses.
You know what? Maybe the turtles are Coke fiends.
You know what is ironic? I have seen in the companies that I use that have replaced these, they've replaced them with wooden stirrers.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like,
But the reaction is to
fuck
is
the
to be
trees,
like,
but we love the turtles. Sorry.
But the reaction to that has been, I'm going to stick 3 plastic straws in my drink and put it up on Instagram and say, fuck you liberals. So, yeah, when you say I'm going to come after your guns, and people are just going to double up and double down.
Yeah, I mean, I know Beto's from El Paso, and it was a little close to the situation that went down there, but, like, with my opinion, with that comment, he alienated, like, half the country. Like, if this was your plan to turn your campaign around, good luck, dude.
Well, it seems like if this is going to, if like I said, one, he seemed to back off slightly from what he said. I mean, he didn't go so far as to say, well, I didn't mean it. But like I said, he said in the interview that I heard, it was a snippet. You know, obviously it was a sound bite. I didn't hear the entire interview, but he came off as, you know, it was the heat of the moment. I was still very emotional about what had happened in my home state, et cetera, you know. And it's like, okay, so are you apologizing for how you said it? You're damn right we're coming. You know what I'm saying? Is that the part you're apologizing for? Or are you backing off, you know, we're not going to come take your shit? Which...
Did you forget you were from Texas?
That's a hard thing to take back, though, right? People aren't going to forget that.
Yeah, you can't unsay that. No matter how much you backpedal, dude, you said that shit, and you're from Texas. Like, even if hell freezes over and you somehow get the nomination, you may not carry your home state because of that one sentence.
Right. It's like if someone asked you about abortion, and you're like, does anybody really like babies, though? Like, you can apologize for it all day long, but people are going to remember that.
Well, I think the bigger issue is this, like I said, is this going to affect more moderate Democrats and Second Amendment supporting Democrats? And even if I mean, like you said, if hell freezes over and he gets the nomination, is this going to be something that the person who does get the nomination eventually picks up and runs with? I think it's going to be based on...
I think that Beto has sealed his fate because not anyone, but most people voting in the primary are going to be looking for the most electable candidate, not necessarily the one that aligns with their personal views. There's going to be a lot of people that would like to vote for, but they don't see him as electable as Biden or Warren. And I don't think that, it doesn't seem to be doing him any good.
Well, no, and it doesn't really help that he was on a talk show in Texas. I don't know the time frame, but it wasn't that long ago. And they asked him specifically, are you going to come after people who own AR-15s? And he said, no, we're not doing that. And the people that are defending what he said well, this was before the tragedy happened in Texas. And the response to that has been, oh, so when it happens in his backyard, now all of a sudden he gives a shit?
Right.
You know, like, it's kind of like, if you want to play, it's like watching a tennis match, just go back and forth. And it's like, guys, I don't agree with what he said, but I understand why he said it. I understand being you know, emotional about the situation because it hit so close to home for him. And I've said this for years now on this show. I don't consider, if you get new information and you change your mind based on new information or whatever, that's not, to me, that's not flip-flopping. Mm-hmm. That's called critical thinking.
Well, but it's so easy for somebody to be anti-gun if they haven't grown up in a culture of guns. And I'm not saying, when I say culture of guns, I don't mean has a whole wall full of automatic weapons at a bunker. I just mean families that hunt, that, you know, train their kids to use firearms responsibly at an early age. You know, if you didn't grow up with these things, then it just feels kind of alien to you. And then you see them only being used in extreme acts of violence on TV. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that whether you're talking about weapons or electronic cigarettes, it's all the same thing. You have to handle it the same way. I mean,
panic and freak out.
That seems to be the way we're handling it now. Both of them.
Like if you're feeling like the government is overextending itself and babysitting your vaping habits, how do you think that people who are gun owners are feeling right now?
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm not saying that like vaping has the same potential to kill people. I'm talking about just personal freedoms. If you want your personal freedoms protected, then you have to consider others.
Yeah, well, that's like, I'm like the outlier of what you just talked about. Like, I did not grow up in a household with guns. Like, they weren't around me. No hunting in my family. I mean, my dad was in the military, but I mean, you know, always when guns are in the room, I'm nervous, but I'm pro-autonomy. So go Second Amendment, you know? Like, you know, I know adults can, well, that's another conversation, but I know adults can generally be adults and know how to do shit.
Well, right, and when they don't, we already have a system to take care of that. You know, we have laws against harming other people. It's when the law starts looking at an equation of owning a certain thing means a higher percentage chance of harming yourself or others. That's where it crosses the line.
I mean, but it's the same tired old trope. But I mean, like, in the car in the wrong hands, fucking super deadly.
Well, they're having problems in the UK with stabbings to the point where they're banning knives, people carrying pocket knives. I mean, and I'm not trying to get off on anything can be used as a weapon type shit, but I mean, that is the truth. If someone has ill intent, they can pretty much turn anything into a weapon of some sort. And whether you get rid of AKs and AR-15s, you know, and by the way, the new thing I'm hearing is these are weapons of mass destruction. Shut the fuck up. What's the other?
Weapons of war. That's the other one.
No, stop it. This is these fucking liberals who go way too far with the shit, who turn away people who would support them if they didn't use hyperbolic language like this. Mm-hmm. Weapons of mass destruction. So it's the same as anthrax. It's the same as a nuclear weapon.
Right. I mean, I'm not anti the government controlling, setting limits on what can be owned when it comes to weaponry. It's when you set the standard as, well, somebody could be really hurt by this. Okay, well, that applies to everything. So if that's the standard, then we're just going to have to ban everything and encase everything in bubble wrap.
I could take this mic in my hand, walk down into the casino, and beat someone in the temple with it 20 fucking times.
Right.
All right. Anything is a weapon.
So the standard should never be, could a person with ill intent use this to kill somebody else? That shouldn't be the standard as to whether we should own it or not.
But the children, Aaron. But the children. Won't somebody please think of the children? It's a combination of the children and it could have been me.
No matter what, I think it boils down to what Chris said. Unless a miracle or an act of God happens or something along those lines, he's not getting the nomination anyways. Not this go round.
He's just trying to get to the next debate at this point.
You know, I mean, he won some points with the, extremely progressive people who are like, ban all guns. He won some points. Great, wonderful. But ultimately, like I said, I think the bigger question was, is the eventual nominee going to pick up and run with this? And I agree with you, Aaron. I think it's almost a political third rail. Don't even touch it unless you're forced to.
Well, that's half the you alienate half the country with that.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, half is a lot. Half the country are not gun owners, and it's not even double digits when you're talking about multiple gun owners. So
there's more guns in the country than people, man.
Yeah, I know, that's insane. But it's not half of the people in the country that own it, actually.
I was talking politically.
I think politically, maybe. I think in general, there's a lot of Republicans who are not personally gun owners, but that's their team. Or, maybe they are just sticking with principle. I'm not personally a gun owner, but I'm for personal freedom.
That's what I'm saying. There's people like me, like, I don't own a gun. I'm 40 years old. I never even fired a gun. But I like the fact that I'm allowed to have one. I like the fact that you don't have to be my parents. I already have parents. All right? That I can, things in my hands, when educated and done responsibly, can be just fine.
I think there's a lot more people between the people who, I got PTSD because I shot a gun once, and I'm going to stockpile weapons and have a lovely room of death in the basement. There's a lot more people in the middle, and you get into the middle of the country. There's a lot of people. I know quite a few people who don't really own weapons, but yeah, they do. They're like, yeah, I support Second Amendment. I don't want people owning. They'll say I don't want people owning a 50 cal machine gun. Or be able to pull up in a fucking, tank at work. That's ridiculous. But, I mean, it all goes back to these weapons are not fully automatic weapons. They're not banned by the automatic weapon ban of I think, 86. So, I mean, you're going to have to start... the anti-gun people try to paint that as they're the same thing. And the thing is, people who are educated know that they're not, and it just makes them look like fools. I mean, how many? We're kind of at this point where it's like, how many times can we cry wolf? And people just are getting to the point where they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, all right, okay, right, sure.
Well, there's this idea that part of what we've seen in the use of this weapon stems from us relaxing our laws covering certain firearms. But you're right. I mean, even if we had the most extreme restrictions on firearms that we've ever had in this country, it still wouldn't cover these specific weapons that are being referred to, the ARs and the AKs.
And I mean, to top it off, it's whatever. I don't want to open that can of worms. We've had this discussion multiple times over the years. I mean, there's really nothing new to bring to the table here. I just thought it was, from a political standpoint, how is this going to affect him more so than, oh my God, they're coming for our guns, because I really don't believe that's going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to go as peacefully as a lot of people think it's going to go. We're going to hear about a lot more violence than we were before they came to take people's guns. I truly believe that. I'm not saying it's going to be Civil War Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, you know what I'm saying? But, there are going to be people that are like, I know some of them, when they say from my cold dead hand, they fucking mean that. They're like, you ain't coming in here and taking shit from me. Sorry, ain't happening.
I want to know what happened to AL through AQ. We went right AK to AR. What happened?
Well, Armalite makes them, so that's why they're ARs.
In general, it seems like this style of weapon is becoming less popular. Like maybe just the stigma is making people less interested in purchasing the weapon, because I buy this, people are going to think that I'm some kind of gun nut, that I have a bunker. And I don't know. I doubt that. There was a weapons manufacturer in the U.S. that said that it was going to stop making their version of this semi-automatic rifle.
Remington, maybe?
I don't think it was, but yeah, I mean, and we've heard like stories about Walmart. It's going to stop carrying these certain types of weapons. I don't think that. Well, actually, I mean, I know for sure these are corporations. They don't make moves based purely on politics. It's when the politics and the money align is when they make the move. They're doing it based off of money, not on anyone's ideals.
Yeah, they're based off of it's good optics.
Right. Good optics means good advertising. They get a lot of free advertising just by everybody running a story about how we're not going to sell these weapons anymore.
Well, I imagine when Walmart was like, we're not going to sell these weapons or the ammunition for them, all the mom and pop gun shops were like, thank you for driving the business back to us. Thank you so much, Walmart.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure there was some people who own stock in gun companies who the minute Beto said that, they were like, oh, salesman of the year, give him the award now.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you. Because
Yeah, how many AKs and ARs were bought the next day? That's a valid observation there, Rich.
Well, I mean, it happened. Remember when Obama was elected and there was shortages of ammunition? One of the jobs I worked at, we delivered to a shooting range, and they had to ration, like, we will only sell you one box of ammo per visit to the range. Because they were short on it.
My fucking dad. Well, I'm going to go out and get, because why? Because Obama says we can't. You are 70 years old. There's not been a gun in your house my whole life. Really? Now you want one because Obama says you can't have one? Get the fuck out of here. He didn't get one.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing your dad at like 70 with like a big old 50 cal Desert Eagle. He pulls the trigger, it sends him through the nearest wall.
At the time, he may have been in his late 60s. Still, either way, still a valid argument. You are retirement age. You are not buying an assault rifle. Shut up.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Well, I mean, we pretty much covered the Beto and his. You're damn right. We feel comfortable moving on.
Yeah. Was there another? You said there were two things.
Yeah, and this one, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that there's been any type of backlash, like angry backlash. It's Trudeau dressing up as Aladdin in blackface, and then apparently he had a wig in a high school talent like an afro wig, and he sang Deo at a high school talent contest.
Excuse me, Rich. Do they all look the same to you? It's brown face.
It was a black and white picture, so that brown didn't come through. Maybe we can get Ted Turner to colorize it, but you know what I'm saying? Like it looked awfully black to me.
Can we just be precise about our terms and say that blackface is when you paint the big white lips? Dressing up as a character who is black and not doing the actual blackface exaggerated features is not actually blackface.
No,
what Aaron's saying is don't go as Hal Jolson for Halloween, kids.
No, don't sing Mammy. Don't do it. It's not going to get you more candy.
I mean, I can already hear, like, we've been doing the show too long, and I've had a Twitter account too long. I already hear, well, that's just your white definition.
I don't give a fuck about any of that. Look,
I'm not saying that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's a difference, right? I'm not saying that one is better or worse. I'm saying both can be tasteless, but blackface is something that is specific and has a specific historical connotation. Dressing up as a person who is of another race there is no concrete history behind that unless you want to just lump it in with blackface, which I guess an argument could be made that it stems from that. But I don't see it as the same thing. I don't see it as an equivalence.
Because that's the thing. What's the intent behind it? Did he dress up as that and go to a white power party? No. I don't think
the intent behind blackface is specifically aren't black people ridiculous, right?
Yes,
don't they look ridiculous? Don't they dance ridiculous? They're just here for our entertainment.
And we all know that if we're going to go by dancing ridiculous, it's white people who are the entertainment. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Go to an Irish wedding. That's all I'm going to say.
What is the intent behind dressing like a genie? I mean, there's no historical thing that you're invoking there.
Well, that's
cultural appropriation.
Well, because now it's that and the phrase "people of color" now just covers everyone who isn't white.
Well, here's my thing.
Ironically, it's using the broad brush.
I know. Don't generalize. While we generalize,
except here,
yes, yeah. It's the same like when Sarah Silverman got fired from that movie because when she had her Comedy Central show, she did a skit where she was. I Now, if I remember correctly, you could actually call that blackface. She was in blackface, but
Yes.
the point of the skit wasn't, ha ha ha, I'm endorsing blackface. It was pointing out the absurdity in the situation. The context and the intent behind it is what matters to me. To the people who are outraged, they're like, your intent doesn't matter, it's your impact.
Is that why Zach Braff hasn't been canceled yet? I mean, you're a Scrubs fan. There are several times in that show where he is dressed up as Donald Faison, makeup and all.
Right. Well, people's outrage it's directly equivalent to how much do they think the person has to lose, right? If by the Sarah Silverman standard, then we should be running, what's his name? Blazing Saddles dude.
Oh, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah, we should be running Mel Brooks out of town. He should never work again. But Mel Brooks has nothing to lose. He has his own empire. He never has to work again if he doesn't want to. And he should die happy.
Okay, I'm going to say it too. Well, never mind. I was going to say he's got the Jew card, but Sarah Silverman also has it, and it really did not help her.
Right. Why is Springtime for Hitler still funny, but Sarah Silverman in blackface isn't?
Oh, who directed Ragnarok? Thor Ragnarok.
Taika Waititi.
Yes, he just made a comedy, apparently a musical about Hitler, and it's getting rave reviews.
Yeah, he plays Hitler. I'm not sure if it's supposed to actually be Hitler or what, but yeah, it's basically a story about a kid who's raised as a Nazi and taught to hate.
I mean, look, here's the deal. Justin Trudeau comes off as just the most pandering, suck-ass politician. Like, the type of politician I'm just like, ew, dude. You are disgusting. Like, I cannot stand your pandering ass. Like, but I can't get with anyone who, just because they disagree with his politics and they're on the right, go, gotcha. No, bullshit. If it wasn't got you, if you defended Sarah Silverman and you argued that, it needs to be taken in context and what was her intent, then you need to argue the same for him. Or else you're just proving that you don't really have a stance. You just adhere to your party's standards. That's it. And if that's all you are, then good. Wave your flag. That way we know where to spot the idiot.
There's boxes and they're checking them.
And to be honest with you, his apology was like, oh God, he hit every phrase. Like, I've been cloaked in what layers of whiteness. I didn't understand the damage I was doing to people by dressing up like this, and et cetera, et cetera.
We get it.
And it was like, oh my God, dude, do you have to hit every buzz fucking word? Like,
with the party he's on, the party he decided he's on. Yes, that's kind of where we're at in 2019.
Okay, he's got to play the game. Yeah, I mean, it would be great if he could just be like, "Fuck you all."
Both sides have to do it. I don't want to seem like I'm picking on it. That's just politics in 2019. You have to check all the boxes on your side.
But he is in Canada, and Canada did have a mayor of Toronto who smoked crack and talked about he's got enough pussy to eat with his wife, so he doesn't need to eat a reporter's pussy. I don't know. That's her Marianne Barry. Let's be honest here. Bitch set me up. I mean, seriously, I don't think he was like crazy, but I mean, I don't know. I guess to me, if he'd have came out and said, look, I was a teenager. I didn't really take into consideration that this was going to offend anyone. I did not mean to offend. It was not my intent. I didn't leave the house going, boy, I'm going to piss off a lot of people, and I'm glad I'm going to. I mean, you got the really hardcore woke flakes who aren't going to let it go, and they're going to drag it out every time his name's brought up, just like the hardcore right wingers are going to do. Well, he dressed up in blackface, and one time he had an afro wig and sang Deo. And it's like, okay, so do we have to cancel everybody that was in Beetlejuice because they lip sync to Deo too? I mean, where does it end? If he'd have just come out and said that, I don't know. Of course, once again, I'm not Canadian. I can't vote for him, so I guess it really doesn't matter what my opinion is. But I'd have been like, all right, I got a little bit of respect for you. You fucked up, dude. It's okay to make mistakes. All right. No one's going to be perfect, especially through their teenage and early 20s. And we're not talking about he was a serial rapist in college, and he's like, well, I didn't realize rape was wrong. Sorry. We're talking about he did a stupid thing that's, to be honest, where was the outrage then? I mean, if this is such a horrible thing, why didn't this pop up? Why didn't this pop up before now? We're trying to apply our values that are ever evolving at light speed right now to shit 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's like Bill Maher said, you all you woke people, when you're 60, your grandkids are going to go, oh, what backwards fucking idiots you were. Okay? Period. End of story.
Yeah. Last week when he was going off about like, really, we're going to hold people accountable for shit they did when we're 17, then everybody's fucked. Because I don't know about you fellas, I had some stupid shit when I was 17.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we're not talking about committing crimes, sexual assaults, stuff like that. This isn't some Kavanaugh shit. This is, you dressed up as somebody and went to a party. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get this, that some people would be offended, but when I see the reactions, because there's the people that, on YouTube, I hesitate to call them news channels, but they see themselves as news channels. They go out and interview people, and they interview people from Middle East, and like they show them the picture and they go, "Are you offended by this?" And they're like, "No, it doesn't bother me." And then they go to like some uber, woke flake white guy, and he's like, "Oh, it's so horrible. It's cultural appropriation, and I'm offended on behalf of an entire race of people." And just shut up, dude. Seriously, believe me, people can speak for themselves. Isn't that kind of racist to automatically assume you have to speak up for a whole group of other people, another race? I mean, what, you don't think they're capable of speaking up for themselves?
Right. Like the whole, what was it, the Chiefs and other teams that were named after Native Americans, the Redskins. When you ask actual Native Americans if this is a concern, they're like, yeah, we would hope to someday get to a point where that would be a concern of ours, where that's our biggest worry, is how we're portrayed in the NFL. In the meantime, we've got bigger issues to solve.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't agree with this guy very often. I can't remember his. He does the show Louder with Crowder. I can't remember his first name, but
Steven Crowder.
Is that him? But, I do agree with him. His take on this particular subject. He said, if this is the biggest problem you have, to where you have to go out and make this your number one issue, your life is so cushy. You need to get a hobby. Like seriously, if Trudeau dressing up like this is affecting you to where that is the sole issue that you're going to concentrate on, and it's the worst thing to happen to you in your life, get a hobby, because your life's going pretty damn smooth. And I agree with him. It's like, really, just everybody chill, okay? I mean, let's be honest here. Fair or not, we need to stop with this shit ain't fair. Life ain't fair. Get the fuck over it. But let's be honest here. If Trump had been caught dressing up like this, it'd be different, especially now that we know what we know about Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like,
expand on that a little bit. How do you feel it would be different if Trump did it?
Because I think Trump would have done it in a mocking way, not just I'm going to wear a costume. It'd have been like, hey, look at me, I'm Abu. I'm gonna wear, I'm gonna float around on a magic carpet. Aren't I funny? Like he would have been everything that the people that were trying to assign this intent to Trudeau. I think that would be. I don't see Trump being, hey, I'm just going to put on a funny costume and go to a, you know what I'm saying? Like, and go to a Halloween party or whatever costume party. Like it's.
I see the difference that you're making. I just don't know that judging intent is the way to go. I think you either think it's bad behavior or you think it's nothing.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. We all grew up watching a lot of black comics dress up in whiteface, for lack of a better term. I don't know what else you would call it. Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle. I mean, it's the unfortunate movie White Girls. Were you guys like, oh, this is horribly offensive?
I gave no shits. I was like, man, the Wayans brothers. Things getting a little rough. They canceled the TV show. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, by the way, the biggest sin for the Wayans brothers doing that was you weren't funny. Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, that shit was fucking hilarious. I mean, that shit was fucking on point hilarious. When Dave Chappelle dresses up as the news guy and he's like, no, on Channel 7 News, and during the reparations sketch, I was laughing my ass off. Because, yes, there are stick up their ass, stuffed shirt white guys on the news who talk like that. Hi, I'm Chet Baker. Welcome to Channel 7 News. We've all seen that guy on TV. It was funny. No one got upset. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't done with the intent of we're trying to, like, really piss off white people. Everybody understood that. Why can't we apply that to this situation, especially considering it wasn't yesterday? It was fucking, 15, 20 years ago? I guess that's my point. I mean, ultimately, his apology was like you said, Chris. He checked all the right boxes. I don't know how bad that's really going to hurt him. I know that there is an election coming up, and to me, this reeks of his opponents pulling this out. Kind of like October surprise or whatever they call it. Hey, we're going to get you at the last minute here. It's what it feels like. And if you're going to play that game, you're going to play the gotcha game. I don't know that this is going to be a deal breaker for him. I personally, if I was supporting him, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. I wouldn't be like, I'm not voting for him now. Especially if you support him and his opponent is a conservative. Are you going to go vote conservative because of this? If you're a diehard liberal? No.
I mean, you're probably being manipulated by his opponents.
Exactly.
How do you think this shit gets out there?
So,
or not even that it gets out there. It's like the shit is out there and all of a sudden is of importance at a certain time. Like, oh, we should all be concerned about this that happened over a decade ago. You're being manipulated.
Absolutely. And no, people don't like to admit that they're being, that they've been had, but I kind of feel like, yeah, if you fell for this, congratulations, you got punked. Well, anyways. Oh, and then the other thing is, have you guys seen the picture of Mrs. Trump gazing lovingly at him?
Yeah.
If that's not the I want to suck your dick eyes, I don't know what it is. She's just, I mean, Trump's got to be like, really? Bitch, you understand there's cameras on us, right? Like, at least I fucked a porn star behind your back. I wasn't sitting there throwing out like, hey, Stormy, I know the wife's right here, but call me, sweetheart. Like, what was it, old Dave Chappelle skit? Marilyn Monroe gets up there, happy birthday. Like, bitch, my wife is here.
Bitch, my family is here.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got on him. To me, it was I say this. I'm glad it wasn't blown out of proportion more than it was. I understand people on the right are going, ooh, look, one of your little progressive messiahs. Look, they fucked up. And I get what they're trying to do, but I'm looking at them going, shut the fuck up. Just like the people on the left who are attacking Sarah Silverman. Shut the fuck up. Stop. This got you shit. No, just stop it. It's a dumb thing. That's all it is. No big deal.
Like lots of things.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Well, speaking of big deals, how does it feel that we've stolen a child's what was it, life and everything from her?
How dare you?
First of all, when Erin told me she was 16, I was shocked.
What's her name? Greta Van Fleet?
Greta
Thunberg. Yeah, Greta Thunberg. She's 16 and she's autistic as well. Wow.
Yeah, but I'm kind of getting to the point like Are more people on the spectrum than not at this point? I mean, now that the more we start to understand autism, like I'm not, and I'm saying it and I'm laughing, but I'm not really joking. Like it seems like everybody could be on that spectrum a little bit. I know a lot of people.
They've made it pretty broad. My wife would argue it's a psychology degree, if that matters. It's gotten a little broad in the last 20 years. But this chick, good God. I'm tired of being lectured, guys. I am tired of being lectured too. It's just kind of where I'm at with this chick. I'm tired of people like 20 years younger than me lecturing me. Did we do this to people when we were that age? Were we just blind to it?
If I tried to lecture people older than me at her age, they'd have just walked away. They'd have been like, "Oh, please," and just turned around and walked away. They wouldn't have even given me the time of day or their time to listen to it. They'd have just
You're
said,
16.
whatever.
You don't know shit about shit. Pull up your pants.
Well, the funny thing about, not funny, the strange thing about this to me is the people coming out and saying, oh, they're using a child. Isn't this a tried and true tactic at this point? I mean, this is nothing new. You throw a kid out there, and basically, it's a honeypot. It's a trap. If you say anything bad about the kid, oh, you're attacking a child. What kind of monster are you? So, I mean, and this isn't exclusive to any political ideology. Christians used to do this shit too. Used to, run their fuck trophies out in front of abortion clinics and go, "Does this look like a choice to you?" It's like, no, it looks like you didn't pull out in time. Now get out of my way. I got to have an abortion to have. I mean, this isn't. No one has the trademark on this. This is just a tried and true tactic. And I agree with a lot of things that she said, but I think the mistake is it's these doomsday predictions that we've been hearing. I've been hearing all my life. And when they don't come true, every time that happens, you're just giving the climate change deniers more ammo. I mean, someone put together over the last, I think, like 45, 50 years, just Time magazine covers about, in 10 years, we're going to be in a new ice age. And then, 5 years later, global warming, we're not going to have an ozone in 12 years. And none of these, it's like this shit didn't happen in those time frames. Stop with the sky is falling shit. It's scary enough as it is. You don't need to hype it up. I guess that's where I'm like, that's the only beef I have with what she did. She got up there, she spouted a bunch of stuff that's probably been told to her. If you're 16 and you've been raised by parents who are telling you your entire life, these people are stealing your future from you, they're destroying the earth, and she gets up there and says that. Really? Is it any different than like when these preachers have these kids and they raise them to go out and be hellfire and brimstone? You see a 16-year-old kid at some tent revival preaching about the end of the world is coming. Christ will be back in 5-10 years or whatever. I mean, how many times have we heard that shit? It's starting to feel the same way. It's like I said, it's scary enough as it is.
I don't buy into this idea that she's been brainwashed, though, if that's what you're saying. I mean, she is 16 years old. She can have her own opinions about this shit.
And if someone stuck a 16-year-old kid up there and he was spouting every bullshit religious hellfire and brimstone thing, you'd think, wow, that parents had nothing to do with that. You'd think that, really?
No, you're right. I would probably think that the parents would have a lot to do with it.
Okay, well, I mean...
But that doesn't make his point of view less valid.
No, science makes his point of view less valid. But, my thing is, when you have presentations, speeches like she gave, it's going to turn a lot of people off who possibly would have been your ally, because they're like, oh my God, really? Again with this? We're going to be, the world's going to end in 12 years because of global warming. Oh, okay. All right. I've heard this. I've seen this movie before. I know how this one ends. We'll be here in 12 years. I'll see you on the first day of the 13th year type thing. That's that and the fact that somehow people think, well, if we throw a quote unquote child out there, that you can't criticize that child. Bullshit. If she's 16 and she can have her own thoughts, then she can take the criticism she gets. And I'm not for criticizing her for speaking out like a lot of people are. I'm not. The memes that you brought up was it even a meme or was it just a release from someone who used to work for Trump? The lawyer that put that picture out of the girl in pigtails with Nazi propaganda and said,
Yeah, he was saying that the liberal tactics propping her up as an icon of their movement was equivalent to what the Nazis did.
And that's absolutely retarded. I mean, I think we can all agree on that.
That's the thing. Like, I agree with you that, she wants a platform. She wants to be heard. Then she should be able to take the criticism the same way anybody else in her position would be. But the idea that, like, Laura Ingraham, for example, I don't think that she has to apologize. I just think that she just illustrated how stupid she is and how she has no real argument against her. If that's the best she can come up with is comparing her to one of the children of the corn. Or the guy on Fox News who said, let's see, I had his quote up here. He had to apologize. Fox News apologized after one of their pundits said, this movement were about science. It would be led by scientists rather than by politicians and a mentally ill Swedish child who is being exploited by her parents and by the international left. So,
wait a minute. What? I mean, there's a few things to take issue with. Is autism defined as a mental illness anywhere?
No.
I didn't think so.
Part of the reason why they had to apologize.
I'm like, wait, what? Did I miss something? First of all, Children of the Corn, no. Wednesday Addams, I get that comparison just because of the braids, but like, okay, whatever. But and then using the fact that she has autism against her, so like, what autism? There's a wide range of autism. Just because you have autism doesn't mean you are one thing. You know what I'm saying? You're not automatically Rain Man.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you are, like, your mental facilities are hindered in some way.
Yeah, it's not like you can't wipe your ass. I don't wipe my ass. I'm autistic. What? No, it doesn't work that way. I do think it's very hypocritical, the people coming out saying you cannot criticize her whatsoever because she's a child. And I think it's very hypocritical when a lot of these people that I'm seeing saying this were the same ones that attacked that kid with the MAGA hat in the field trip, sitting there smiling.
Well, I disagree with him, so it's okay.
Well, then you're a hypocrite, and be okay with being called a hypocrite. I mean, I look, if we're going to throw around labels on everybody, and that's we've just somehow accepted that, then you get to wear that badge. Here's your scarlet H for hypocrite. Have a nice life. And if they're fine with that, cool, whatever. But don't try to claim some moral high ground when you absolutely fucking have none. I mean, that kid got doxxed. That kid got death threats. All the horrible things that supposedly, those people are against happened to him. And it's like, all right, so if it's okay to do to him in your mind, then she's fair game too. Personally, I don't think it's okay to do to either of them. I mean, one kid stood there with a fucking shit-eating grin on his face, and she got up there with a very, very impassioned and hyperbolic speech. Does this mean that these people must die? I don't think so.
I'll actually say I think it's fair game to go after Greta and not the Sandman kid, because the Sandman kid wasn't looking for a platform. He wasn't putting himself out on television. He didn't have a message. He didn't have anything except for
a MAGA hat.
A MAGA hat and a group of friends who all support Trump as well.
Well, I don't know. To me, it's really sad. Like, guys, you know me. I'll make fun of anybody and anything. I don't give a shit. My mom died of cancer. I got a ton of cancer jokes. I was beaten and molested as a kid. I got a ton of jokes about that too. I don't give a shit. Nothing's off limits to me. But I just don't. I don't find the memes attacking her all that funny. The funniest memes I've seen of her are the ones that aren't political. Like, there's one where she's got, like, it looks like she's really straining, and they took a screenshot of it, and the caption is, when you're trying to take an opioid shit. I thought that was fucking funny because if you've ever tried taking away shit, you know exactly that you make that face on the toilet. You know what I'm saying? You know, no, but that doesn't mean I think people shouldn't, you know, if you want to make fun of her and you know, go at her in memes or whatever, that's fine. I just don't think they're funny. There's nothing, it's not against the law not to be funny. I mean, if that was the case, we would have to put Dane Cook to death. So, I mean, I don't know. I just, like I said, I agree with a lot of what she said. I think she went over the top in saying it. Can I understand why she went over the top? Absolutely. When you're that age, passions run deep, passions run high. I get it. You know, I mean, I think we all got over, you know, we've all had, if we look back at our teenage years, we all overreacted to something that now we would just kind of like go, well, yeah, that was really an overreaction. You know, I didn't need to take it to that level. You know, I need to stop putting 100 on 10. You know, I can dial it down a bit, you know. I mean, that's the sad part in all this. As usual, the story has stopped being what she said because her detractors have made that about it. They've made it about her. And I mean, like, the one thing I do kind of take issue with what she said and what people have, you know, piggybacked on is this, you know, oh, the Western world is just destroying the planet and how horrible of you. And it's like, whoa, time to fuck out. There's a lot of developing countries that are still stuck in the mid 1800s as far as the levels of pollution they're pumping into the air. All right. Why are we not taking them to task? Why is it all, you know, Europe and America and Canada? Why is it all on us? I mean, to me, that's the conversation we should be having. And if we do have cleaner technology, why aren't we sharing it with these countries and trying to bring them into the modern age so they're not polluting like that?
We said it before. I'll say it again. Planet's going to planet. Isn't this all? To think that we can actually affect this is silly. I mean, we can to a degree, but I mean, you want to ask some dinosaurs about we've been around what, 200,000 years out of how many years the Earth has existed?
Yeah, we're not. Yeah,
it is hubris to think we can stop the planet from doing what the planet's going to do, regardless. To think we can have any that. We could maybe retard it, perhaps, but I mean, what's going to happen is what's going to happen.
No, there's a natural cycle that's going to run its course, and there's nothing we can do about it. But we also don't have to fucking destroy all our own natural resources and help the process, you know, along to make the planet inhabitable for ourselves.
Right. I mean, there's also things that we've done directly that wouldn't have happened on their own, like a hole in the ozone layer. And we acknowledged that, responded to it, and actually improved the situation. So there are things that we do as a society, that as a race, that affect the planet, and there are things that we can do to reverse that.
See, that's where it's, Chris, that's where I say it's, you know, it's hyperbolic on her end. You know, we're going to destroy the planet. No, we're not. The planet's going to be here regardless. We can make it really uncomfortable for us to live here, and if we really don't give a fuck, we can make it so it's uninhabitable for ourselves. We can do that, but that's not going to destroy the planet. The planet's still going to exist. It's still going to fucking revolve around the sun. It's still going to be here. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Am I making sense to you? Or
yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm like, stop with the doomsday bullshit. It doesn't help anything. You're turning people off because the minute they hear that the sky is falling, Chicken Little shit, they tune you out. All right. Here's you can win most of the battles and lose the war. And this type of bullshit is turning people off and turning people away. Whether that's right or wrong of them to walk away does not matter. All right. It doesn't even factor in. It's human nature. Like you said, you don't like being fucking told or being lectured to. No one does. All right. And if you are sitting on the fence about this subject and someone comes along and jumps neck deep in your shit and, you know, shame on you. You're horrible. Look what you're doing. how dare you drive anywhere, walk everywhere? What's wrong with you? Be honest. What's going to be people's natural reaction to that? Do you think you're going to get a good reaction from them? They're going to go, oh, you know what? You're right. What an asshole I've been. No, most people are going to go, fuck you, dude. Don't come at me like that. That's my concern.
Yeah, but you're talking about a one-on-one thing, and it works differently with groups of people. When somebody stands up and said we should all feel shame for this behavior, and a person in the crowd looks around and everyone's nodding their heads and going, yes, that person is absolutely right, then the reaction from the individual isn't likely to be to push back. The natural response is to go with the crowd.
Yeah, but the crowd isn't the town square anymore. The crowd is fucking social media online, and you see the fucking pushback from the crowd. To be honest with you, the reactions I get when I talk to people about this vary from fuck her to and a shrug. Like, that's the one-on-one reactions I get. And I'm like, so you didn't, why are you, why fuck her? Okay, you don't like being lectured. I get that. But what about what she said? Did you even listen? Or did you just hear the tone of her voice and the overdramatic delivery and go, I'm not listening to this bullshit? I mean,
here's one thing that she's right about. The climate is changing. The leading governments in the world are dragging their feet on doing anything about it. And the result is going to be that people are going to die. Those are just facts. I mean, I agree with you. This all started with Al Gore, really. This moving the goalpost. Well, studies show 25 years. Yeah, 25 years, nobody's going to pay attention to that. Let's say 10 years, that'll get people's attention. With the idea that, we have our intentions are good and we're overall right, so it's okay if we fudge the numbers a little bit. And there has been a lot of continuous damage done with that attitude. But at the core of the things that she's talking about, we're talking about people's lives that are going to be affected, and some of them are going to die because of it. I mean, everyone looks at, so the planet might get warmer by a degree and a half. So what? What does 1 degree matter? Well, who's the first to go when we have a heat wave? We get a heat wave and old people start dropping like flies. So a little bit of change makes a big difference to them. But the worst take on this is the people who are, Ben Shapiro actually has the worst take on this. That climate change is going to happen. It's going to happen anyway, and people will just adapt. He says that...
By that it means die,
the coast will flood, and people will move. Right, you fucking
Arizona Bay.
So you were the guy in the 80s that was like, what? Why do these people even live in Africa if there's no food? Why don't they just move to where there is food?
Yeah, that Sam Kinison, it was that bit was a joke. It wasn't a fucking how-to manual. About taking riders out to Africa. And we'll take you to where the food is. It's a joke. Just like Idiocracy was not a how-to manual. Okay, well, that makes me think Ben Shapiro owns a lot of property in Arizona, and he's hoping on it being beachfront property here before he dies.
I really don't. I don't get Ben Shapiro. I mean, he talks smart and fast, so people tend to believe him, I guess. But the guy is front and hard. He is not that smart.
The one thing I will give him is that he does break ranks from the Trump can do no wrong, Trump is infallible crowd, because I've actually listened to his fucking show when there's absolutely nothing else to listen to in the car. And he will fucking take Trump to task. Now, he softballs him, but I mean, he will criticize Trump, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of unusual in this day of, if I support someone, and if you disagree, you don't say, I disagree with something this person did. You just stand mute.
You know why he's successful, Aaron? He's a young conservative voice. There aren't a lot of those.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's usually a lot of guys with salt and pepper in their sideburns, that kind of shit. A young conservative voice that's not Ben Shapiro is like 40.
There's a difference between being good at arguing and having a good argument. And when you have a good argument, you actually don't have to be good at arguing.
Well, he also doesn't strike
It's like he was really good at debate, right? But that doesn't mean that he has good viewpoints. He didn't win at debate because first of all, they assign you your viewpoint. I don't understand it as a sport at all.
Yeah, it was always weird. Like, okay, so you're going to argue pro-choice, you're going to argue pro-life, go. And it's like, well, what if I'm not pro-choice? You know, now I got to argue for. I guess it's an exercise to get you to. Debate always seemed like training for lawyers, people who don't really have a stand. They're just like
lawyers and politicians.
Yeah, they're just like, well, I just kind of go where the wind blows. What's the polls say? Who's paying me the most? Then if he can pay me, he deserves the best defense he can get. If he can pay me.
As an exercise, playing the devil's advocate is a good thing. First of all, you can, it helps you strengthen your own case.
Helps you see the other side.
Yeah, by seeing the other side.
Well, also, I think any military person will tell you have to study the enemy. It's a pretty shitty strategy to go in knowing nothing about the person that you're going into to battle against. I mean, and it's granted, it's verbal combat. It's not, they're not with muskets at dawn type shit, but I don't know. I think, I just wanted to take a step back. I think one of the reasons Ben Shapiro is as popular as he is also is he appeals to the people that don't like people like Gavin McInnes and Milo Yiannopoulos. Those guys are provocateurs. Those guys try to say the most outlandish shit to piss off the people that don't like them. And then their fans are like the ones who are like, yeah, own them lib cucks. Yeah, low T beta soy boys and all that bullshit. It seems like that's not his crowd. He's trying to appeal to the more, we're going to take the high road crowd. Whether or not he's actually taking the high road isn't, up for debate. But he seems like he's playing to that crowd more. I think that's why he's a little bit more popular. He's just because he doesn't say the most outlandish shit that comes to mind. He is seen as a little bit more mainstream.
Sure.
But yeah,
I don't know. I think of him as a provocateur still, but not on the same level.
Well, I mean, like I said, Gavin McInnes, Milo, that type of level, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, those guys are fucking, they'll say anything. I mean, Milo was talking about, getting molested by a priest helped him with his sexuality. And it was like, wait, what? Okay. All right. Come on, dude. You're saying that shit just to get the fucking rise out of people. That's his brand. I'm gonna be shocking.
That's what he does. That's how he gets you to buy his books and listen to his podcast and whatnot.
Well, I mean, he's been pretty successfully deplatformed on on Alex Jones level. I don't see a lot of his stuff like I used to even 2-3 years ago. That Bill Maher interview and then the backlash to it, even though he'd given the same interview multiple times beforehand, he got the national spotlight with Bill Maher, and I don't think he thought it through.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue against deplatforming working if your intent is to, silence a person and hinder their ability to make money.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to fit sold.
Pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Which it is kind of an interesting subject. I mean, how do you guys feel about deplatforming?
I think you should just let the market do its thing. And yeah,
Well, I'm not even going to front and act like I understand all the intricate ins and outs, but apparently this is according to people I've seen on YouTube or give interviews. Platforms like YouTube, if you say certain words, boom, you're automatically, that episode is demonetized. You won't get any money from it.
Well, yeah, didn't Todd have one of his podcast episodes deplatformed because he quoted, God hates faggots?
But all these deplatforming instances are market-driven.
It's, I guess, but there's no human element to it. If it's just something that's searching for a word and context isn't involved, like, I'm not okay with that. Like, if it's just a program just looking for keywords, like, that's not cool, because then it essentially you have to tailor your speech around that.
And I mean, obviously, yes, I am going to speak for Todd. I'm 99.9 to infinity% sure he wasn't supporting the Westboro Baptist Church.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
The comment was it was about a parody of it. It was like, you might as well be, it would say you might as well be these people.
Right. Well, but how does this tie into deplatforming then?
Well, if you have platforms that, because you said a certain word, regardless of the context of using the word, takes your stuff down. I mean, if you're cool with that, then okay, you're all right. Good for you. You're cool with ridiculous censorship. I mean, once again, it goes back to context. I'm the royal you. I'm not saying you. Don't take it personally. Calm down. I'm just saying, if someone's cool with that, then okay, great, wonderful. You're cool with ridiculous amounts of censorship. I personally am not. Give me a little bit more. What was the context of what was being said?
Deplatforming is getting people off of your social media platform or website that in response to other users who don't want to see that type of content on the platform. The type of flagging that you're talking about is an overreaction to try and remove material that people might find offensive before it's an issue. I mean,
yeah, that's.
Are there bots involved in doing that? Yeah, absolutely, because there's so much content out there that they can't hire enough people to do this manually, and it wouldn't be efficient. The stuff would be out there and widespread before they could do anything about it. The only problem that I have is what they do with that flag. I'm fine with YouTube flagging content. It's restricting access to flagged content for 18 and under that I think actually crosses the line. I think it's fine. Like, a flag is, the TV rating at the beginning of the show, so that as a parent, if my kids are watching something, I can watch the first minute of it with them and go, well, at least this will tell me what I can expect in this show. And I can use that as a basis to decide whether I want my kids watching it or not. And in the same way, I can put that restriction in as a parent myself and say, anything flagged for these terms, I don't want my kids watching that content. It's the fact that YouTube goes that extra step in saying, now we're the daddy, and we say what your kids should and shouldn't watch, which a lot of people in this country are okay with because they're lazy parents.
Well, a lot of
let
people
someone else do it.
A lot of people are also okay with it just because, well, I don't like what that person said. Shut that person up. Okay, I have a major issue with that. I mean,
that's why I'm saying these are two separate things. Deplatforming is silencing that person that we don't like. Chris, you had said that you would rather the market take care of it, and my response is this is the market taking care of it. It's a market-based decision for Twitter to knock InfoWars off of its platform because they're doing so at the request of many of its users. And it's looking at a bottom line of, how many people are we going to lose by getting rid of Alex Jones versus how many people are we going to lose by keeping Alex Jones? And that's all any of these decisions are. Facebook wants to look at, well, we want to judge to a certain degree, the accuracy of these things. And that's how, people like Alex Jones get kicked off the platform because he's spreading lies. No, it's not about whether Alex Jones, any of the stuff that comes out of his mouth can be proven or not. It's about how many people are going to continue to flee from Facebook the more Alex Jones content they see.
And Rich, I'm with you on it's a dangerous precedent with, I don't like what you're saying, so shut it down. But where I'm conflicted is they're private business.
And these are individuals who are saying, I don't like it. And that's fair for a person to say, I don't like it and I don't want that content coming into my home. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it.
Because, at the base level, the First Amendment is about the government can't censor you, right? That's really what it's about. The government doesn't own YouTube. The government doesn't own Facebook. The government doesn't own Twitter. That's where I'm conflicted with this. They can do what they want, though. Until they're, until they're a utility in a sense, they can do what they fucking want. Quite honestly, that's where I'm conflicted with this. I'm all about the autonomy, but Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg can make the call on what goes on in the business they own.
Yeah, and these things, these types of deplatforming may seem like they're kind of grassroots movements, right? A bunch of people collectively got mad about somebody on a platform and decided that they didn't want them there anymore. But these things are just as much driven by the celebrities and influencers and newscasters and talking heads. I think at some point it's going to be like a Mexican standoff, useful anymore. Somebody would have to do something really extreme and considered universally disgusting to get platformed, I would think, because it's just going to be like, well, okay, you can deplatform, quote unquote, our guy for X, Y, and Z. Well, we found all this stuff on your guy.
Aaron, I find the use of the phrase Mexican standoff problematic.
Yes. Thank you.
Point of personal privilege, comrade. Yes, Chris, I agree with you. Ultimately, they are a business. It's their playground. They can tell you the rules. All right. I've seen with my own eyes, those rules don't apply to everybody equally.
Well, I was saying the other part of this is, am I fond of the environment that would create? No. I don't like what you say, so, man, no more dialogue.
There's a whole subsection of YouTube that they call themselves, why I don't know, but they call themselves BreadTube. And it is like it's like the woke flakes answer to the intellectual dark web, And I've watched videos where they're presenting themselves as news and they're attacking legit news sources for using facts because they don't agree and it makes them feel a certain way, and they openly admit this, and I'm like, this shit's allowed? But you don't want Alex Jones because he's spreading bullshit, but it's just because it comes from someone to the left of Alex Jones doesn't make it any less bullshit. All right. First of all, how are you going to present yourself as news and then attack news sources for using facts? That makes no sense to me. That leaves me scratching my head going, huh? Then you're not news. You're an opinion channel. But they can, like I said, they can present themselves as news. And wasn't that the whole problem with Alex Jones? That people were taking him to task because he was presenting himself as a legitimate news source and he was out there pumping bullshit. That Sandy Hook was a false flag and these were crisis actors and all this shit. So if it's good for one, it's not good for the other, once again, I guess you're okay with being a hypocrite then. And I understand we're all hypocrites to an extent. I get that, but we don't have to fucking wallow in it, people. We don't have to celebrate the fact. That's what I'm getting at. We all, even Christians will say we all fall short of the glory. That's why we need Christ to forgive us of our sins. Christians don't say you're never going to sin again because you're born again. You're forgiven for your sins. But that doesn't mean you go out and go on a kill crazy rampage and go, well, Jesus forgives me, so I'm good. That's not how that shit works. And that's my issue.
Mm-hmm. But I guess, I see deplatforming at its core is no different than somebody getting their show canceled because they can't get advertisers anymore.
Well, I guess deplatform and demonetization are two different things. Deplatform means you're taken off the platform completely. Demonetization just means maybe that one video on your channel you won't get paid for. Now, if that's what they're doing, I don't really see a problem with that. Okay, why? If you're presenting, provocative material, and YouTube doesn't want to co-sign on it, YouTube doesn't want to pay you for it, and they say, look, this episode, no, you went down a road that we can't co-sign on. Fine, whatever. But to take someone completely off, I think it has to be. I mean, you really have to pole vault over the line. I mean, and it's like when they took Alex Jones off. I think we all agreed, like, they can do what they want. And on top of that, Alex Jones was out there saying some ridiculous shit. And it's scary how many people took him at his word.
Hey, they put shit in the water to make the freaking frogs gay. All right? We needed to know about that.
Now we need to buy his pink sludge that's going to help you live when the Antichrist comes back or whatever the fuck he's selling. Yeah. Well, you're on Twitter, Aaron. Let me ask you this, because I'm not, and you would know better than I would. What is like the standard to get removed from Twitter? Do you really have to work at it, or is it like, you could just say one thing that someone disagrees with, and if enough people report you or whatever, that's it, you're gone?
There is no standard when it comes to what Twitter polices or how it polices.
Really?
It's what Uncle Jack thinks.
There are rules for conduct on Twitter that can get you banned or removed from the platform completely. But the application of those rules is, well, I wouldn't say random because there's a pattern. It's just not evenly applied.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Alex Jones is crazy, right? There just isn't an equivalent on the left. There are some people who say some crazy shit on the left, but if you're going to tell me that Maxine Waters is equivalent to Alex Jones, then we can't have a sane conversation, right?
How about Donna Brazile?
Donna Brazile even. Yes, Donna Brazile. Not the same. Says some crazy shit sometimes. Nowhere near.
Yeah, she's not saying shit that's outright false.
Equivalent to... I mean, well, sometimes she lies. She's lied before. She's danced around the truth.
But like Sandy Hook was, like that. Well, she's not saying shit that absurd.
There is. So we're not just talking about general language, though, right? Which we're talking about language that actually does cross the line, the thresholds that we already have, the things that. The types of conspiracy theories that Alex Jones was pushing were affecting negatively people's lives.
I'm about to say this sentence. Donna Brazile is actually somewhat rooted in reality. Alex Jones is in Alex Jones land.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, does that mean I think that Alex Jones should be censored? No, I don't know. I think that the standards that we have for censorship are fine, right? You're allowed to yell whatever you want as long as it's not fire in a crowded theater. And Alex Jones was yelling fire in a crowded theater, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that phrase. So it's okay to yell fire in an empty theater? Or a somewhat populated theater?
Yes, because nobody gets hurt.
No, I know. I'm just being a smart ass. No, and we've had a discussion before. Just because you're not allowed or you're taken off YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, there are other. I mean, I'll give you this. Not as popular, but there are other options.
Right.
You can go to other social media sites.
And deplatforming shows you how loyal and vast your audience actually is. And in the case of InfoWars, not as loyal and vast as they thought. I think, they're looking at how many Twitter followers do they have, how many people are friends with them on Facebook. But that doesn't mean that all of those people are supporters of Alex Jones and InfoWars. There's a lot of people that are just following for shits and giggles, following to respond angrily to everything that's posted. The actual people who are willing to put their money on the line to support Alex Jones and InfoWars isn't enough for them to seem like the media presence that they seemed like when they were able to put their message out there on social media platforms. So you're right. Everybody's got the option to, as Adam Carolla would say, to build their own pirate ship and sail it, and they can set their own rules. And that's been an amazing platform for Adam Carolla and many others who have careers and are making money in ways that they couldn't do under previous structures. And Alex Jones has that ability. And if he was that talented and that on point and had that many loyal followers, he would continue to be successful. But he's not, because so much of the attention that he was getting through social media was just because he was saying inflammatory things and people wanted to be outraged by them. People aren't going to spend $14.99 a month to be outraged. They'll do it for free on Twitter all day.
Yeah. My outrage does have a price tag.
So this is the market working. The market's working on Twitter's side because they have the freedom to design the type of content that they want to have on their platform. And it's working for Alex Jones in the way that it should be. And he's getting as much financial support as he can from the idiots that he's able to fleece with like fake vitamins and shit. He makes a decent living for a snake oil salesman, and look, that's the market working as well.
Well, I will say this: when they shut 8chan down, I actually checked this out myself because I couldn't believe it. There's a website called, for people who don't know, called the Wayback Machine. And basically it's over the years, it's taken snapshots of websites. You can go back, search by date, and see web pages that maybe aren't no longer there.
I love that idea.
8chan is they're slowly scrubbing it from the Wayback Machine.
I hate that idea.
To where you can't go back in. At first you would go and you'd go to a page from because 8chan I think started up late 2014, early 2015, and at first you could go back and you couldn't see the pictures that were on the page at the time, and then eventually you would get, this page is not available, and it's like, wow, like that is, yes, 8chan is a cesspool, or was a cesspool, absolutely. I'm not even going to attempt to argue that point. But for years now, for decades now, we've told people, don't put something on the internet that you don't want there to be that you don't want to be out there for forever. And now we're seeing, if there's a big enough outcry, they can scrub it from existence. And that is kind of a disturbing thought.
I kind of agree with you on this, and here's why. Because as much as that's true, where you put something out on the internet, it can live forever, that's not true for the majority of the information out there. The majority of the information has been very ethereal. It just disappears. Websites die every day. All kinds of shit does not get archived. The shit that people actually care about or are interested in continues to be archived. But there's a lot of information that just disappears on the internet. Making the choice as to whether you think that 8chan, it's because it's not just a passive thing. You don't just go, we'll just let it exist and it'll be there. It has to actively be maintained. And you have to decide which things that you want to put your efforts towards, your manpower, and your storage space and your electricity costs, all of that have to be applied to archiving any piece of information. So do you want to apply that to every page on 8chan? Probably not. There's probably a lot of shit that could just disappear into the ether, and that's fine. It's not equivalent in my mind to censorship.
I don't know if I would go so far as to call it censorship. It's just, okay, the vast majority of people would agree 8chan's a fucking cesspool. Most people aren't crying for the demise of it, period. End of story. My thing is, it starts there. Where does it go? If there's an outcry about a different site, another site, and it happens to them, is this going to become the new norm? Is this going to become what happens? Enough people make enough noise, and we just, shutting it down isn't good enough. We have to scrub its proof of existence from the internet. I mean, it's not like, as far as I know, I've never seen any like crazy illegal content that has popped up on the Wayback Machine. So they must have some sort of, policy about what they will show you. You know what I'm saying? Like I never saw child porn going back on the or anything like that on any of the pages that when you could go back and look up 8chan. But
right, but the platforms that do have the support, the only thing that can stop them is the government actually shutting down access to their website.
I mean, and there is this.
If the government was stepping in and shutting down the archives of 8chan, I would be more concerned about that. This is, to me, again, this is just another instance of the market working. The people in general are deciding what type of content they want to see. Sometimes it means that, stuff that I think is important is an archive, but, it also means that I don't get, a fucking third season of Firefly. Shit happens. Not enough people liked it.
And much like 8chan, the ones who did were very vocal and fanatical about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and to be honest with you, 8chan itself may not be there, but and the people that would go there on the regular have scattered. But believe me, they found other corners of the internet to gather at. We just haven't heard about them yet because they haven't had the time to build themselves up again.
Well, just to expand this a little bit, just talking about digital information in general, again, this concept that everything lives forever on the internet is a complete fallacy. And honestly, we shouldn't be relying on anyone to archive any of this information, because anybody who's going to be archiving it at this point in time in history is going to be doing so based on economic decisions. Everyone really should be their own archivist. If there's any piece of information that you think is important in any way to yourself, other people, or society in general that's on the internet, archive it in any way possible. Take a screenshot, just download shit, back it up, have actual copies of this stuff, because there's no guarantee. A website can go under and just remain on a server until the host of that server needs that space and just goes, this thing's gone.
I mean, I guess what it comes down to is I just feel like we're kind of living in the wild west of the internet. We're in like 50 to 100 years. The internet will be unrecognizable to us if we could go forward in time and look at it. Because, I mean, we've gotten used to pretty much anything goes. I remember when Napster was shut down, I was like, wow, it's strange, because it quickly became such a part of daily life for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, but it's important to think about the internet not just as a singular thing. This is a one piece in a long line of the evolution of information. So while, books are important, that was why books are important, is because that was the next evolution in the dissemination of information. And the internet is just the next step in that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I just, like I said, it just feels weird. It's like, wow, okay, this is where we're going with this. You know what I'm saying? I never thought it would. It would be like that. So honestly,
I think we're like the next step after, so I'll just get into the weeds a little bit, the nerd weeds here. But this week there was a report about from Google that the quantum computer that they're working on hit a milestone, which it was basically able to do an equation that would have taken a traditional computer tens of thousands of years to compute, and did it in like 8 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's the Goodwill Hunting computer.
And this is the type of exponential energy savings that we are going to see with quantum computing, and we're right on the precipice of it. Once that tips over, this idea of limited data storage and how to, and even the ways that we transfer all this information will totally change. Because along with part of what quantum computing is done with is this idea of linking bits, and they've taken an atom that was on the ground and a linked particle that was in space, and were able to, when they flipped the spin of the particle on the ground, the particle in space flipped at the exact same moment. So it's not even like there was a travel of information. So the way that we store, the way that we transfer, the way that we compute, all of these things are going to just explode. And it's not going to be a structure of the internet anymore. It's going to be a lot more like, once we actually adopt some of this technology into our bodies, or integrate it more with our bodies. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be implanted, but just having ways of interacting it other than our thumbs. It's going to be more like just living in a telepathic world than a world with internet access everywhere.
Minority Report's coming, everybody.
Yeah. So the evolution, like the internet, is just going to kind of be a bump in the evolution of information. And while I may agree with you on the trends of what's happening on the internet, the long-term future of it, I just don't think there is one. I don't think that, we might see it as like the groundwork that was laid for whatever the next method of communication is, but it will resemble it in the way that a stone tablet looks like a Gutenberg Bible.
And there's something to be said for stone tablets, though. There's a bunch of people that still live their life by supposedly what was written on two of them. So
yeah.
I was going to say, are you high, everybody? Do you feel high now?
Did I get too out there?
Well, no, it's just because you were kind of just going where I was thinking. I was like, where the fuck do we go from all of the information at our fingertips?
Well,
you answered it.
Directly to the neurons, bypass the fingers.
Oh, like the Matrix? Or, hey, I know karate now?
Yeah.
Cool.
once again, these were movies. These were entertainment. This wasn't a how-to manual.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely pros and cons with this kind of technology.
No, I'd actually believe that one day we will figure out ways to transfer physical skills. I mean, all you have to do is set up a program that will run a certain neuron sequence in your sleep, and you'll wake up and know how to karate chop somebody.
And you know what humans will use it for? I want to be able to come like Peter North.
Yeah.
Download that. Yeah. We'll shoehorn porn in there somehow.
You always do.
Hey, like it or not, porn has driven a lot of technology. I mean, I know there's some people that frown on that type of statement, but it's the truth.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, in the ways that we were just talking about, we traditionally interface with the internet through a keyboard, whether we're operating it with all 10 fingers and thumbs or just our thumbs on our phones. We have the traditional input method. We have the matrix, and we're all accessing it with typewriters.
Yeah.
So we haven't really even explored the full potential of our interaction with the internet as it stands right now. But porn is on the forefront of that. It's actually affordable. I just happen to be, there's a person that I follow, a writer from Britain that I follow on Twitter, and she had posted an article that she had wrote, and she writes primarily about technology stuff, and this one was all about sex toys. And most of them were different high-tech vibrators and stuff with remote controls and all this shit. Was a new version of the Fleshlight that is a hands-free version that actually has moving parts in it that does all the stimulating. And
they got my letters.
And works with interactive video that you watch through a VR headset.
Ladies,
so the movement,
be
the stimulation, the movement of the thing, however it does it, is directly linked to how the person in the porn that you're watching. So that is the next step in interfacing with this technology. That's a limited application, and not everybody's going to access the internet through their genitals in the future. But when they start figuring out what are other ways that we can directly experience this without having to, type something into a screen somewhere, this is where it starts.
Wow. I mean, you have a 16-year-old son. I have a 15-year-old, almost 16-year-old nephew. Can you imagine? Wait, you had one movie? Wait, you had a magazine?
Wait, you had singular pieces of porn that you shared, and then went home and closed your eyes and tried to remember. That's how you got off.
These motherfuckers have had you porn since they were 10.
You would get your hands on a porn tape and watch it together, trying to hide your boner, and then run home and beat off in the bathroom with your eyes closed.
These guys probably shared, hey, I saw this on Pornhub today. They could email it to you or just text it to you. There's multiple ways to share it now. I don't think this is what Brave New World had in mind.
Actually, yeah, kind of. I mean,
and it keeps the people docile, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not the exact plot, but I mean, they're close enough to be cousins.
Right. It's like people think it's weird that North Korea is into weed. I'm like, well, actually makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah. It must be really good weed. They think whatever that dude says is awesome.
Oh God. Yeah, I sorry. I guess I'm a troglodyte when it comes to, or excuse me, a Luddite when it comes to jerking off. I'll just do it manually. Something about sticking my dick in a machine, just like they can't even build a transmission that can work right half the time. And you expect me to trust my junk? I'd never disrespect my junk by sticking something.
I'm all about keeping a healthy rotation. Anyway, I think that's the right way to jerk off is to not do it the same way over and over again. So I'm willing to throw anything into the rotation to see.
What do you like? Sit out, put your hand between your butt cheeks in a grate to get different fucking textures.
I never jerk off the same way twice.
Like you spin it around and you're hitting it like, yeah, I'm hitting it from the back. Yeah,
you're the snowflake of jerking off.
No, I'm saying is just don't get stuck in a rut, even if it is your own hand.
Yeah, but you ever try to jerk off with the other hand? It's like brushing your teeth with the wrong hand. You end up like sticking a toothbrush up your nose and shit. It's like it just feels weird. So,
that's maybe because
when I was younger and maybe when I was younger and I went, dude, I got shit to do. This is going to take a while.
Oh, God. Well, real quick before we wrap it up, I want to bring this up since we're on to the absurd shit. We've gotten to the jerking off point of the show, so obviously we're not so serious right now. Did you guys see how many people actually showed up at Area 51?
Wasn't it like 3,000 or 4,000 people?
Exactly. They just all stood there staring at the gate. One guy, there was a newscaster. One guy would. Aaron, help me here. What's the run called?
The Naruto run? Yeah, he did a Naruto run behind the guy on TV.
Yeah, that's the one guy who did it. So, no alien sex secrets came out. No one stormed nothing. Just a couple thousand people hanging out, staring at armed guards. Oh, yeah.
No alien stock. What happened to that? Thought there was going to be a concert.
I did hear that. There was, and I heard that there were local like restaurants that were going to offer food and drinks and stuff, and Limp Bizkit was supposed to headline. And I'm like, sounds about right. People who were dumb enough to try to raid Area 51 probably would like a Limp Bizkit concert. So,
oh man,
like I can see Fred turning it. Instead of give me something to break, give me some alien cheeks to clap. Like just some crazy shit.
That tracks. Should have been like Limp Bizkit featuring Joe Rogan.
Oh God, Joe Rogan would have showed up and handed out DMT to everybody. It'd have been over with. They've been like, we don't need to see the aliens. We're already in another dimension, man.
Spaceship's landing right now. See it? It's right there.
Yeah, like Bill Hicks said, I have seen the sky split, a UFO come down, and a beam of light shine all over me. Yeah, you were on some good shit, in other words. Yeah. All right, well, that's unless you guys got something, that's about all I got.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. So this is where I remind you, as I do every week, we are on Twitter at @ARegimentedPod. Email us unregimented@ChristopherMedia.net. Lots of new listeners. Spotify, we see you. We're also on Spreaker.com, the iHeartRadio app, ChristopherMedia.net, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Check us out every Saturday. Thank you for listening. Donate button. You want to be like Dawn. She's giving what she can, but she gives every month, and that's a compliment. This is a stranger. We don't know Dawn. Dawn found us on accident, and she likes the show enough to give us $10 every month. You can just give us $10 once. You give us $1 10 times. You give us $1 one time. Whatever. You don't have to give us anything. You should go to the Amazon portal. You click through there. It's Christmas shopping season, and just you a little piece of whatever you buy. So enough shilling. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Later, guys.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to 50.
Pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
ChristopherMedia.net. If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for listening, and thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.